How are you this morning? Yes. Welcome to everyone here. Welcome to everyone online watching. But we are in our final week of our series, Taking Responsibility for Your Life. And I know that this one has been a series that's really left us thinking and left us challenged, and it doesn't get any better today, I'm afraid. Sorry. Taking responsibility for your life. We've asked a question this whole series. Every week we've asked the question, am I taking responsibility for my life? And then we pause and then we say, really? Am I taking responsibility for my life? Really? Another way of looking at it is if someone said, yeah, I'm taking responsibility for my life. And someone else says, are you though? Like, the way you act and the way you speak doesn't sort of match. Am I taking responsibility for my life, really? It's an important question to ask because, generally, all of us think that we take responsibility for our lives, don't we? We like to think that we do. But the truth is that irresponsibility is very hard to see in the mirror. If I asked you to look into your life and find a time when you were irresponsible, generally, we find it's very hard to see, very hard to find. But the truth and the fact is that irresponsibility, your irresponsibility, eventually, it's going to become someone else's responsibility. Does that make sense? Your irresponsibility will eventually become someone else's responsibility. Whether it's in a marriage, whether it's in a family, in a workplace, in a classroom, in a club, even at church. If you have a responsibility and you shirk that responsibility, then someone else has to pick up the slack. It's just the truth. Someone has to do it. So that's why we ask that question. It's so important that we ask the question, am I taking responsibility for my life? And we need to learn to take responsibility for our lives. So during this time we have today, the short time we have today, we're going to ask a question. Or we're going to look at this statement, We're going to look at the statement, to whom something is given, something is required. Let's all say that together on a count of three. 1, 2, 3. To whom something is given, something is required. Very good. The fact is that every single one of us has been given something. We've been given opportunity. We've been given opportunity, whether it's from God or whether it's from some other person or whether it's from a circumstance, we've been given an opportunity. And those opportunities create something for us. Those opportunities create a chance for us to respond to it. So today we're going to look at here we go, this is exciting, our response ability. Do you like it? See what we've done there? Our responsibility, our ability to respond to an opportunity or a circumstance that comes our way. You get that? Our ability to respond to a circumstance or an opportunity. Now, I want us to try something this morning. I hope this works. Everyone needs to participate or else it's not going to work, okay? Sound good? Right. I'll wait till you hear what it is. So what I want us to do, I want you to think. Now, I want you to think of a person. Now, you might have to think back to when you were in school. I don't know. You might just only have to think back to this week. But I want you to think of a person, and I do know that there are people that have someone like this in their life. I want you to think of a person that you would class as your arch rival or your arch nemesis. Now, they're not your enemy. They're not your enemy. You don't hate them. They're not your enemy. But they're a frenemy. Yeah. They seem to be that one person that seems to just get it over you every single time. They just get that one little thing better. They get the latest thing just before you do. Just that one little thing. Now, I want you to think about that person, okay? Think about, have you got their name? Have you got their name in your head? Just a little clause. If that person is sitting next to you this morning, please do not participate in this exercise. Think of that person, that one person, your arch nemesis, your arch rival, And on the count of three, I actually want you to say their name, okay? Now, you don't have to yell it out, but I want you to say it loud enough so we can hear it. Okay, on the count of three, everyone participate, please. 1, 2, 3. Very good. Actually, there was more than I expected there. That could be, we might need some counselling. Kev, get your notebook out. That arch nemesis, that arch rival. For me, it was a guy, this is back in school, there was a guy called Peter Earl Smith. Peter Earl Smith, all right? Now, he had one of those fancy pants hyphenated surnames, all right? And he used to introduce himself like that. Hello, I'm Peter Earl Smith. And it's like he wanted you to address him that way. Hello, Peter Earl Smith. And it's like, really? This guy, Peter Earl Smith, he wasn't my enemy, right? But he and I, we weren't the best at anything, okay? We weren't the best by far at anything. But he was just that little bit better than me every time. Every single time. He was that little bit faster than me at the running race on sports day. You know, he got the extra spelling word. He worked out the maths quiz quicker than me. He had better lunch. All these things. Just that little bit better than me every single time. I remember one time we had a maths quiz, and it was one where the teachers will get this, the one where all the kids stand up, and then when you get out, you have to sit down and, you know, you answer these maths questions. Anyway, it came down to me and Peter Earl Smith. We were the last two left, all right? Me and Peter Earl Smith, and the winner got a 10-minute early mark to lunch. That's important because you get the good handball court. And it came down to us. And of course, Peter Earl Smith got the question. Oh, I know. And the teacher's like, well done, Peter Earl Smith. Let's hear it for him, class. Simon, you can sit down. Okay, wonderful, Peter Earl Smith, greatest kid in the world. Go and enjoy your 10-minute early mark, young man. You deserve it. Let's hear it for him as he goes, everyone. Yes, Peter Earl Smith. Actually, it's cutting a bit deep, really. I might need to come and see you, Kev, after that. EHS. But when I think of Peter Earl Smith, I think of how I used to think and feel when just every time he'd just get that one extra. And I used to say, sometimes out loud, usually always in my head, but I used to say what every kid has always said across the generations and all around the world. And they've said, it's just not fair. It's not fair. Why do they get it all the time? It's not fair. And I'd go home and Mum would say, how's your day? And I'd say, oh, it's all right, Peter Earl Smith did this and Peter Earl Smith did that. And I'd say, Mum, it's not fair. And Mum would answer with the same response that every parent has all around the world throughout the generations. And they've said, well, son, life not fair. Life isn't fair. I know that every parent has used that line once at least. Oh, well, life's not fair, son. And you know what? It's true. Life's not fair. We can look at it. We can look at life even now. The younger generation can look at the older generation and say, it's not fair. Look, you guys have got houses and investment properties and, man, we're going to struggle to get that. Well, you weren't around in the glory days when home loan interest rates were 19%. They were fun. But then the older generation can look at the younger generation and say, well, it's not fair. Look at all the stuff that you guys have. Look at all the opportunity you have. Technology, my goodness. Entertainment. You've got Netflix and Stan. You can watch any TV show anytime you want. When I was a kid, if I wanted to watch a movie that wasn't on TV at the time, you had to ride your bike down to the local Blockbuster video store on new release Thursdays, all right, where they guarantee a copy of Back to the Future. And you'd go and check and you say, well, not available, not available, not available. It's none available. So you go to the man at the counter. Excuse me, has anyone returned a copy of Back to the Future? Let me just check the returns box. And he goes, oh, yep, there's one here. You're like, yes. Hang on, let me check the reservation book. He gets the exercise book out and checks. Oh, no, I'm sorry, mate. Someone's already booked that one out. Someone by the name of Peter Earl Smith. He sounds like a pretty cool guy. Life's not fair. Life's not fair. You know what's strange? What's strange is we all know that life's not fair. We look at that, look at life, we know life's not fair, but we want life to be fair most of the time. Most of the time we want life to be fair. Usually when our piece of pie is the smallest, that's when we want life to be fair, don't we? Oh, look, I've got this little piece of pie, it's not fair. If we're completely honest with ourselves, when our piece of pie is the biggest, we don't really give much about fairness. We don't really care. Look at my piece of pie, look at what I got. Look how the Lord has blessed me. You think about it. You know, there might be 3 or 4 people going for the same promotion or the same job or the same client sale, and you all go for it and you get it. It's yours. And so you go home and you celebrate. Get your family together. Look, I got the thing. Yes. Woo, let's go celebrate. You don't get your family together and say, oh, come on, kids, come on, look, you know, it's just not fair for those other people. You know, we all went for that thing and I got it and they missed out. That's not fair, don't you think? No, you don't. If we're honest, you don't do that. You go out for dinner, don't you? Whereas at the same time, there's people in their homes going, oh, it's just not fair. Like, I worked harder and I knew more about that thing and they got it. It's not fair. Life is not fair. You know, when we say life's not fair, what we're really saying is life is not even, isn't it? That's what we're saying. We're saying life's not even. It's not even. Some people have more than others. It's not even. But when we think about that, life's not even, then we realise, well, it's impossible, isn't it? It's impossible for life to be even. And here is the problem that comes about. When we try to think of the unevenness of life, or we think about the unevenness of life, then we make excuses for our irresponsibility. We make excuses for being irresponsible with what we have. You're like, well, it doesn't matter. I mean, they got this and they got that and I didn't get and this didn't happen for me. So, you know what? I don't care. Someone else can clean up the mess. Someone else can do the extra. Someone else can pick up the slack because I didn't get that and they got this and no. And we excuse and make excuses for being irresponsible, for not taking control. And what happens? What happens with that is when you start looking and nitpicking, as it's said, what happens is you start to get angry. And it starts to create a bitterness inside you. And what happens is irresponsibility begins to eat a hole in your soul. It eats a hole in your soul. And you start to spiral down, looking at all these things and being irresponsible with what you have. And you eat a hole in your soul, and what happens is you get angry and you get more angry, and the only person that it affects is you. You're the only one who gets affected by it. I mean, sure, the others, it's frustrating when they've got to go and pick up the slack and they've got to carry your part of the load, but there's enough of them, they get together, they work it out, they sort it out, and then they move on. And you're over here in your little pity party, oh, I didn't, and this happened, and what happened, and this. And you look up and everyone's gone. They're all over here moving on with life. You're the only one who gets affected. And you spiral down and you start making excuses. There was a statement, I heard a statement that Benjamin Franklin made. Benjamin Franklin, he was one of the founding forefathers of the United States of America. He was a scientist, an inventor. And he made a statement. And he said, he who is good at making excuses is seldom good at anything else. That stings a little bit. He who is good at making excuses is seldom good at anything else. And when you get into that death spiral, you get into that death spiral of looking and comparing and I didn't get and they got and it's not fair and no. What happens is you start making excuses and more excuses, and then you get really good at making excuses. And before you know it, you realize that Benjamin Franklin was right. He who's good at making excuses is seldom good at anything else. So talking about irresponsibility, how it can make us angry, it can make us make excuses. But on the flip side, or on the other side of the coin, I guess, irresponsibility can actually happen on the upside of fairness as well. Fair, unfair, even, uneven. Irresponsibility can happen on the upside of that. When you have someone that has everything falls into place for them. They just get the thing every time, and it's Peter L. Smith all over again. And they get everything they need and everything they want, and they get excess. They got all this stuff. And what happens is they become irresponsible and they waste it. They waste their excess. They don't do the best thing they can with it. And that's irresponsible as well. To whom something is given, something is required. Remember that. To whom something is given, something is required. It's a broad question. Am I taking responsibility for my life? Am I taking responsibility for my life? Really? Really? The issue is not how much I've got. The issue is not how I'm going to make life fair and make it even. How am I going to get what everyone else has? The issue is, what am I going to do with what I've got? What am I going to do with what I've got? And now the amazing thing, this is the cool thing, the amazing thing is Jesus, all that stuff we just talked about just then, Jesus actually taught on this. He spoke about this over 2,000 years ago in the Bible. You should read your Bible, it's good. Jesus spoke about this stuff. He taught about this. And it was amazing. We're going to be looking in the book of Matthew, chapter 25, in just a minute. And Jesus speaks and he teaches, and he was just a brilliant, brilliant teacher. Jesus would often use what they call parables to get a message across, to make an illustration. Now, a parable is a story. Okay, it's a story. It didn't happen. It's made up. But it's a story that Jesus uses as an illustration. And the cool thing he does at times is he uses things to the extreme. Like he'll say a statement or say something really extreme in the story that would really jolt people's attention. Wow, I'd say, what? Did he just say what I think he said? And it jolts their attention. They're like, oh, I better listen to what he's saying here. And so Jesus would use these parables to get these points across, to make an illustration. And they were very, very, very good. He was very good at doing it. And we're going to be looking at a parable in a minute. And it's, if you've grown up in church or if you know your Bible, it's the parable of the talents. Okay, now we're not talking about I can sing, I can dance type talent, all right? This talent that is talked about here is actually a measurement of money. So Jesus, once again, very clever. He uses something that's culturally relevant, something that people can understand, and he uses it to make a point and an illustration. So it's what they call the parable of the talents. Some people in your Bible, if you actually have it listed, it's usually got a little headline there, parable of the talents. So let's read. Let's read. All right, book of Matthew. Here we go. Book of Matthew, chapter 25, and we're going to start at verse 14. And it says, again, it will be like a man going on a journey who called his servants and entrusted his property to them. To one he gave 5 talents of money. Now let me just give you a little bit of clarity on that one. A talent of money would be equivalent to about 20 years of an average person's wage. 1 talent. Okay, so for the exercise, if we want to sort of convert it to today's money, about $300,000. So to the one servant, he gave $1.5 million. And the listeners will go, what? Who does that? Who gives $1.5 million to a servant? And Jesus would have said, it's a parable. Stick with me. $1.5 million. To another, he gives 2 talents. And to another, 1 talent, each according to his ability. Then he went on his journey. So the master left, went on his journey. The man who had received the 5 talents went out at once and put his money to work, and he gained 5 more. Woohoo! Doubled his money, $3 million. So also the one with the 2 talents gained 2 more. But the man who had received the 1 talent, he went off, he dug a hole in the ground, and he hid his master's money. To what the crowd would have gone, what? Who puts $300,000 in a hole? Jesus would have said, it's a parable. That's my point. Now, after a long time, the master of these servants returned, and he settled accounts with them. The man who had received the 5 talents bought the other 5. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 5 talents. See, I have gained you 5 more. The master replied, well done. Yes, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few things. I will put you in charge of many things. Come and enjoy and share your master's happiness. Yes, he was happy. Go on holiday and my man doubles my money. This is awesome. Winner, winner. The man with the 2 talents also came. Master, he said, you entrusted me with 2 talents. See, I have gained 2 more. The master replied, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful with a few. I will put you in charge of many. Hang on, that doesn't sound fair. The guy that did the 5, who worked harder, he got put in charge of many. And this guy only did 2. And he gets put in charge of many. That doesn't sound fair. It's a parable. And now the listeners at this point with Jesus, they would have known what's coming up, just like we all are. They would have known what's coming next. The guy with the 1. If this was a movie, there would be a change in the soundtrack. It'd be like a bit of a dark, ominous sound. And the man who had received the 1 talent, he would have turned up dirt all over him, mud, a little bag all covered in dirt. And he said, and this is crazy, what he does here, okay, he knows he's done the wrong thing. And he immediately makes an excuse. He even he blames the master. He blames him. You watch this. He said, the one who received the 1 talent came in. Master, he said, I knew that you are a hard man, harvesting where you have not sown and gathering where you have not scattered seed. So I was afraid and I went out and I hid the talent in the ground. See, here is what belongs to you. And his master replied, you wicked, lazy servant. Some translations say worthless. You worthless, lazy servant. So you knew that I harvest where I had not sown and I gather where I had not scattered seed. Well then, you should have put my money on deposit with the bankers. So then when I returned, I would have at least had some interest. Take the talent from from him and give it to the one who has 10 talents. Well, that doesn't sound fair either. Why don't they give it to the guy that had the 2 talents? They give it to the guy who's got 10. He's got more again. Peter L. Smith. For everyone who has will be given more, and he will have abundance. Whoever does not have, even what he has will be taken from him. Now throw this worthless servant outside into the darkness where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. Gnashing. Gnashing of teeth is just a symbol of frustration. Have you ever done that? Ever gnashed your teeth, ground your teeth? This guy knew he had done the wrong thing. He comes with his dirty bag of money. He's like, I can't believe this. I was in the inner circle. I was one of the chosen 3. And now I'm out. I'm out of the inner circle. So frustrated. He's frustrated with himself. So what's the point? What's Jesus' point with this parable? What he's saying is that life is not fair. Everybody gets an uneven amount of opportunity. Uneven. And even when you do something with it, the other person still gets the reward. Everyone gets an uneven amount and everyone is held accountable. They have to show what they did with what they were given. The important thing to realise is that this uneven amount, is actually not even ours anyway. It was given to them. It was on loan to do something with. And it's our responsibility to leverage it. It's their responsibility to leverage what they were given and make the most out of it, do what they can with it. You see, there are 5-bag people, and there are 1-bag people, and there are 2-bag people. And every person in this room and every person watching online fall into one of these categories. We fall into one of these categories when it comes to opportunity, when it comes to what we've been given. Now, these 5-bag people, we know these people. They're the ones that, they come from a good family. They did great at school. They made success early in life. They married well. They're attractive. They're smart. They're ridiculous. It's just not fair, and we hate them. But we don't hate them, but we do. All right? Then you got your 1-bag people. Your 1-bag people, they've done it tough. Maybe mum and dad divorced early. They didn't do too well at school. Not very attractive. They don't communicate well. And they've had a tough life. Maybe they have been through a divorce themselves. Maybe they're having a tough run with the kids at the moment. Things aren't going as well, and they can look at their 1-bag, their life, and say, well, what have I got to offer? Look at these guys up here. Then there's probably the rest of us, the 2-baggers, right here. And we look and say, what are we going to do with this? What are we going to do with this? We don't look at what they have and what she has and what's going on. We look at what we've got. What are we going to do with it? See, the point of this parable is you're to look at your own bag and decide, how do I leverage it? How do I use it? What do I do to get the full amount? And we're going to refuse to take it for granted and have excess that we waste. And we're not going to make excuses for why we're in this position. We're going to do what we can. You see, 5-bag people, the 5-bag people, you might know some 5-bag people in your life. We know there's certainly ones around in the world, in society. Like you think of the Steve Jobs and the Mark Zuckerbergs of this life. But the most inspiring stories are the 5-bag people who have done something with what they have, their opportunity, but most importantly, they've done something to the benefit of others. They've done something to the benefit of others. I think of Bill Gates, okay, Mr. Microsoft. He's a billionaire and a gazillionaire. He's got everything you could ever imagine. But he's chosen to do things with his opportunity to benefit others. His wife, Melinda, and himself, they created a foundation. It's called the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So creative. Mr. Creative Man. But this is their mantra. It says, guided by the belief that every life has equal value, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation works to help people lead healthy, productive lives in developing countries. It focuses on improving people's health and giving them the chance to lift themselves out of hunger and extreme poverty. And I know that they give millions of dollars away in grants and support and help. They're 5-bag people who've used their opportunity for the benefit of others. That's inspiring. But the most inspiring stories are your 1-baggers. Your 1-bag people, despite the little that they have, they choose to make the most of it, and they choose to do it for the benefit of others. That's inspiring. That's the most inspiring. They're the ones we read the books about. They're the ones that we watch movies that they make about. I think my daughter is studying law at the moment, and other day for some fun we watched the movie Erin Brockovich. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it's a true story. A true story about a single mum out on her luck, flat out on her luck. She's got 3 little kids, down to her last dollar in the bank, wondering how she's going to feed the kids. And she gets herself just a minimum wage paying job without benefits in a law firm, just doing secretary work, pushing papers. And she comes across this file, this case file of this corporate case that's been going on for a long time. And it's to do with this big power company and the effects that they're having on a couple of local communities near their power station. And what's happening is they've got bad business practices that are infecting the water of these communities, and it's causing people to get sick and to die, and they're losing finances and economy, and it's not going good. And so Erin Brockovich, she reads these files and she's like, this is not right. It's not fair. So she devotes her time and her efforts, and she works at working out what's going on with this case. And she goes and she individually meets every single one of the clients and the victims. And she ends up becoming the partner in one of the biggest lawsuits in American history. And she gets like millions of dollars payout and compensation for the victims of this travesty, this thing that's been happening. She's a one-bagger. She's a one-bagger who chose not to make excuses for what she has or doesn't have, and chose to do it for the benefit of others because her heart went out to the people that were suffering. So they have inspiring stories. Now, us two-baggers, we look and go, oh, that's not fair. They've got cool stories to tell. Or what about those ones? I mean, they married into that. And if my dad was the CEO, you know, I'd be having this. And if I married and if I got that chance, and we can look and try and compare ourselves. But that's not what we've got to do. We simply have to look at what we have. We look at our two bags and we say, what am I going to do to leverage this? And if you're a Christian, you're going to say, what am I going to do for the kingdom of God, for the benefit of the kingdom? And if you're not a Christian, you're going to say, what am I going to do to benefit others? What am I going to do to benefit others? Because yourself is too small to waste your entire life on. Yourself is too small. You don't read stories or watch movies made about people who spent their entire life looking after themselves. There's nothing inspiring about that. There's nothing to celebrate. There's no hero there. We have to look, as two-bag people, we have to look at how big our piece of the pie is. What have we been given to work with? And we realise it's not ours to begin with. What are we going to do with it? What are you going to do? You're going to look around and gripe and make excuses of what you don't have and what everyone else has? Or are you going to leverage it for the sake of something that is bigger than you? Something is bigger than you for others. You know, the most important verse in that parable is verse 19. It says, after a long time, the master of those servants returned and he settled accounts with them. He settled accounts. He said, what have you guys done with what I gave you? Basically, that's what he asked. What have you done with it? Now, if you're a Christian, if you believe in God, believe in his son, Jesus Christ, in that same way, I don't know how it's going to work, but in that same way, we are going to have to give an account for our life. What have we done with what God has given us? What have we done with it? Now, it could be awesome. It could be something awesome like depicted in the story. Double the money, double the effect, double the influence in your life. Or you could make excuses and bury it and do nothing with it. So here's the deal. We're all given some time. But they're uneven amounts of time. We're all given opportunity, but it's an uneven amount of opportunity. We can't fight that. To be a person that says, I'm taking responsibility for my life, is a person that says, I'm taking responsibility for the opportunity that I have been given, the piece of the pie that I've been served. I'm not going to take it for granted. I'm not going to make excuses. I'm not going to compare myself to everyone else. The bottom line is, to whom something has been given, something is required. Something's required. Am I taking responsibility for my life? Rarely. Am I rarely taking responsibility for my life?